Hello, everybody. Once again, my name is Gray Eagle Sim Pilot. I am a real world A320 pilot, and I'd like to welcome you back to my little series here as we prepare for my annual recurrent training. So, this is my Train Like a Professional series that I got going on, giving you a little bit of insight of what we do in the simulator every year when it's time to go back in for training. This series is for entertainment purposes only, and not to be used for any real world flying. So we're back here in Atlanta. As you can see from video one, the weather has greatly improved here in Atlanta. We now have a ceiling of 800 feet, and the visibility, I'm not too sure what it's at, but it shouldn't be really that restricted. So we got ceiling of 800 feet. I don't know why it's going up to 8,000 feet. That's not where I set it. I like it. I wanted it to be somewhere around there. Nothing too crazy. So we're not flying around in the clouds the entire time. And the winds are going to be the same. So the winds are going to be out of the south at 5 knots, gusting up to 10 knots now. And in this scenario that we're about to run, we're going to depart off of runway 9 left on the SID here. Still doing it at varsity. Everything else pretty much remains the same as in video 1. Like I said, everything is going to load back in exactly the same in the simulator every single time. So we got 100 passengers, 2,000 pounds of cargo, and 16,000 pounds of gas. We burned a little bit sitting here. Well, I've been getting everything set up and talking to you, but everything should be about the same. The V-speeds are pretty much the same. All of that should be the same. So we'll take off on the SID here, get vectored back around for the localizer to runway 9 left, and in the process, what we're going to go ahead and do is we'll just get a quick little ECAM going, little generator fault, just to run an ECAM, get that going, get the juices flowing with how to run that, and then we'll come back around for the localizer approach into runway 9 left. Well, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started here. So, park brake off. Fenix 320, Atlanta Tower, runway 9 left, cleared for takeoff. RNAV to grits. Alright, RNAV grits, runway 9 left, cleared for takeoff, Fenix 320. So we'll again advance the thrust levers to 1.05 on the EPR, good enough, and move it into the flex detent. Flex. We'll check that thrust is set and call thrust set. $80. Checked. Releasing some back pressure on the side stick. You can feel the aircraft wanting to weather vane into the wind. Very common. V1. Rotate. Positive read. Gear up. And just like I would in the simulator, because I want the highest chance of success, autopilot 1 on. Climb set. And flaps up after takeoff checklist. Okay, after takeoff checklist is complete. There's our breakout there, and we'll just stop our climb at 5,000 feet. We won't go all the way up to 10. So 5,000 feet is set, 4 for 5. Excellent. We'll go ahead and select a speed, get that pulled. We'll pull our heading, set our turn to the south as we make a box pattern around to set up for the localizer runway 9 left approach. So just like we did yesterday, we'll go into our flight plan page, do a lateral revision, and hit Kilo Alpha Lima Tango, Alpha Tango Lima Atlanta. So 80 out, insert that. We'll select the airport arrival, and since we're doing a localizer approach, we want to see if they have a localizer in the box here for runway 9 right. So we have ILS, we have RNAV, because sometimes if it's coded as a localizer approach in here, that means there's probably a step down fix that we need to have. So it doesn't appear that there's a localizer coded into the box. So what we will do is we'll just select the ILS to runway 9 right, and we'll say no star, and the vias will be via Andy again. So we'll select Andy again, and we'll insert that. And let's go ahead and get turned westbound again. There we go. We're going to turn westbound. Let's go direct to Andy. We can radial in, get that all set up there. Pull our heading since there is not going to be a nav intercept. So now we have that inserted into our box here. And right when you're getting all of that set up, because the instructor is always bored back there with nothing else to do, he's just going to go ahead and decide to do that on us. And what? That makes no sense. That does not happen. Alright, ignore that auto thrust there. I don't know why whenever there's a power change, it seems like I've noticed this practicing my V1 cuts and stuff like that. Whenever there's a power change, the auto thrust kicks off. I don't know why that is. It does not really happen in the real world. So if that ever happens when you get a power change, just re-engage the auto thrust. Alrighty, so we got some dings. Ding! Alright, that's my aircraft. And let's see, what do we have? It looks like a elect Gen 1 fault. Okay, if we look in the overhead, we got the fault light on the generator 1 line, and it does look like that generator is offline. So let's go ahead and check our QRC to see if it's a quick action item or an ECAM exception. And it is not a quick action item or an ECAM exception. Alrighty, I tell you what, Mr. Co-Pilot, why don't I hand the aircraft over to you? You fly the aircraft, I'll work the situation. Alrighty, Mr. Captain, my aircraft, my radios, ECAM actions. Alrighty, electric Gen 1 fault, Gen 1 off, then on, so we're going to go ahead and turn it off. I like to wait a few Mississippis before we turn it back on, so 1 Mississippi. 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, and then back on. Okay, the fault light has reappeared there. It says, if unsuccessful, Gen 1 off. Off. Alrighty. So there's no other line items there. Clear electric, and we can see down here on our status page, we're going to be Cat 3 single only, and our inoperative systems are going to be Cat 3 dual, main galley, and generator 1. So clear status, ACAM actions complete, and now we can go into the QRH and see if there's any follow-up procedures that we need to do. So we'll go into the QRH. We're going to look up the issue we just had, which is a generator 1 or 2 fault. After accomplishing the ECAM actions, APU, if available, start. Well, the APU is not MEL'd, so let's go ahead and start the APU. Master switch on. We'll wait a few Mississippis. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, and we'll hit the start button there. And then if only one, and this is an important note, if only one AC generator, engine, or APU remains, meaning if the APU does not come online, or if it does come online and we subsequently lose either one of the generators, land ASAP. So we are now in an emergency situation. We got to get on the ground. Because trust me, you do not want to go down to emergency electrical configuration if you lose that last generator. Electric Gen 1 to fault checklist complete, and if required, there's some other things there that don't really apply to us. So the follow-up actions are complete, the APU is spooling up, and we should get that generator back online. So now that Mr. Instructor has significantly distracted us from preparing for our approach, we go right back into our approach. Let's see, the APU generator is online. Let's take a look at the electrical page now. Look at there. The APU has picked up the load on the number on the left side of the AC1 bus there, powering the rest of the system. So only running at 24%. So that looks good there. So let's go ahead and get back to briefing our approach, shall we? So I'll bring this over here so you can see that as well. Alright. So we've done the flight plan. We've put in the approach. Now we need to verify the approach. Remember how we do that? We go to plan 10 miles, and we are going to pretty much step through each point. So we have Andes at or above 7,000 feet. I'll just move this back off the screen. I don't have it set to stay on top, so we'll move this over so I can work a little bit of both at the same time. So we have Andes at or above 7,000 feet. That checks. That's 3 miles to defense. And defense is at above 6,000 feet. That checks with our approach. Then we have Guy at or above 5,000 feet. And that checks. And that's 4 miles between defense and Guy. Then next 3 miles is Easy at or above 4,000 feet. That checks. And then we have Bernie, 5 miles, 30-degree glide slope, and that should be 2,700 feet, at or about 2,700 feet. And then lastly, the runway is another 5 miles away on a 30-degree glide slope. Our missed approach is going to be a climb to 4,000 on a 100 heading, and outbound on the Alpha Hotel November VOR, radio 235 to Connie and hold. So if we look at here, we got a 100 heading to intercept the 055, which is the inbound course to the station, which is Connie. And we'll hold there as published, so that all checks out. So we did the F, now we need the R. IFUN is the identifier 1089 with a 30-degree glide slope and a 095 course. Progress, we can come back here to KATL. Runway 09 right. Put that in there again for situational awareness. We got GPS primary accuracy high. We're currently estimated at a 0.03 accuracy. Performance approach page. We're going to come over here. Let me check to make sure I'm not getting too far away. Playing air traffic controller and pilot is always fun. So let's go direct to Andy. We'll go ahead and activate that. Get that coming back around. Oh, flight freezes right just before Andy there. Alrighty. Where was I? Performance approach page. So we're in selected speed. I see selected speed up there, so we can activate and confirm the approach. And we will put in all of our values. Let's see. Temperature is 15 degrees. Everything standard, just like last time. Winds are out of the south at 5 knots. And the bottom side, since we are doing a localizer approach, the localizer approach has a MDA, must do addition. We gotta add 50 feet onto the bottom side of our approach there. So we are at 1480, that's the MDA. If we add another 50 feet, that's going to be 1530 if I'm doing math correctly. So 1530. We're going to enter that into our barrow field there. We're going to still use flaps full because the A320 just lands better at flaps full and low auto brakes. So there's our backwards Z. Double D, don't really need it, but we'll still do it anyway to be consistent. We're showing nav on our GPSs there, and we do not need to deselect any nav aids. So that portion of our checklist is, or our little check is now complete. And we can go right into briefing the approach. So the FO is still flying. Our co-pilot is still flying, so we'll ask him, hey Mr. Co-pilot, are you set up and ready for an approach briefing? Yes, I am set up and ready for approach briefing. Alrighty. Oh, flight freezes right here. There we go. Since we're just outside the approach fix of Andy's, that way we won't get too ahead of the too behind the approach. So let's plan on doing the localizer runway 9 rate approach into Atlanta, Georgia, chart 11-7, dated 14 April 23, effective date is April 20th. That checks out the same thing. I forgot to turn on the LS push buttons there. Alrighty. So, the frequency is going to be 108.9. iPhone is the identifier. 095 is the final approach course. Bernie is at 2,700 feet. And our minimums is going to be 1530 with the DDA there. The touchdown zone is 1,026 feet with the MSA around the airport of 3,100 feet. And that's all quadrants. We will configure using flaps full, auto brakes low, and for the missed approach, plan a climb to 4,000 on a heading of 100 and an inbound on the Alpha Hotel November VOR. Radio 235 to Connie and hold. That's in the box and has been verified. No special requirements or notes here in the notes section. They do have a PAPI on the left with ALSF2 lighting. And after we land, let's plan on making a left-hand turn off on November 6 or November 10. And we'll take November and Kilo, or Delta, Juliet, one of those three, and we'll hold short of runway 9 or left. until we receive further instructions. Now the most important thing is, and I always say this in all the scenarios I brief, is we like to do our threats first, not at the end. I forget to ask for threats first, but that's okay. We'll still get around to our threats. What threats do you have, Mr. First Officer? Well, it is a localizer approach, which means we'll be descending in flight path angle instead of our usual vertical speed. So in order to mitigate that threat, what we will do is we'll go into the box, or make do. We'll do fix info, and what we're going to do is we're going to find the final approach fix here right before we begin our descent. So our final approach fix, which is Bernie, and we're going to put a 1 mile ring around Bernie. So we'll go B U R N Y, we'll insert that, and we'll put a 1 mile ring on it. So what that's going to do for us is, once we get to that 1 mile ring, you see it there, once we get to that 1 mile ring, that's going to be our little trigger that we need to switch over to flight path angle. And then 0.3 miles from Bernie, we're going to select 3 degrees down. Why 0.3? Because the Airbus is a 1G airplane and likes to do things very smoothly. So that 0.3, by the time the airplane actually gets to going downhill, is just the right amount of time for you to start going down and get an establishment at 3-degree glide slope. That way, your glide slope will be exactly matched up with your flight path angle. And how do we know if we're going to be low or high on the approach? Well, one person is going to be here on the progress page. You can see if you're low or high here. You're going to be looking at your green dot here. It's going to come on in, and your green dot will absolutely tell you if you're going to be high or low. With that said, the briefing is pretty much complete. What we're also going to do is go and back everything up with what we see in our QRH. So we'll go into our QRH here. We got a little section to back up all of our little stuff here. And so for our localizer, LDA no glide slope, and ILS no glide slope approaches, the approach setup, we want the LS push buttons on. Well, we did that. The constraint push button should be on. It is on. The autopilot is on. Ideally, we're going to want to fly with the autopilot on for most of our training scenarios. The MCDU flight plan, LDA no glide slope, refer to approach chart specific database naming convention. Validate the approach, we did that already. Rad nav, ensure appropriate nav frequency and course is displayed. Manually tuned if necessary, so we check that. Perf page, enter the DDA, which is MDA plus 50. We did that already. When clear for the approach, we'll arm the localizer push button, and we'll use this, either managed descent, open descent, or vertical, or we can use vertical speed flight path angle to get down to our final approach altitude. So this is a technique and a technique only type of thing. So some people like to use the flight path angle and flight path angle down 5 degrees to get down to the final approach altitude before crossing the final approach fix. Some people like to use open descent and then switch over to flight path angle prior to crossing the final approach fix and then go down at flight path angle. I like to use open descent and then switch over prior to the final approach fix It's just the way I was taught. It's just the way I remember it best. Different people like to do it different ways. The point being that they want to see you get down, and remember you need to be in flight path angle in order to go down, which is why we get that 1 mile ring right there. And that's also why we're at 5,000 feet instead of being just flying around here at 3,000 feet or 2,700 feet. It's another exercise on how are you going to get down and how are you going to configure and yada 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 before you get to burning. Alright, let's see, where was I? Okay. Prior to the flying approach fix, ensure the flight path vector, flight director presentation is displayed. So that's when we switch over to our flight path angle there. Once we switch over to flight path angle, you see we have the flight path vector displayed. Monitor localizer course indication on the PFD, step down fixes after the final approach fix, which we don't have to worry about. There's no step down fixes. Now, if there were step down fixes, like I said, you're going to want to have the localizer approach loaded into the MCDU, because the localizer approach will have that step down fix if there is one in there. Let's see. So step down fixes, no. Preset the appropriate flight path angle so as to begin the descent approximately 0.3 nautical miles before the final approach course. Be fully configured and on speed prior to the final approach fix. So that's another thing to think about. So that's why I like to do the open descent, get down, level off, and then begin slowing and configure so that by the time you get to the final approach fix, you're already configured, you have everything done. That's a lot going on within a few miles of that final approach fix. After the final approach fix, top of descent, once the aircraft is descended below the must approach altitude, set the must approach altitude in the FCU, and adjust flight path angle as necessary up to a maximum of plus or minus 1 degree, which is actually a lot. You only need to vary it 2.3 at the most once you're there. The pilot monitoring will identify step-down fixes using raw data and verify the flight path angle. Complies with all intermediate crossing constraints. So if you did have a step-down fix here, the pilot monitoring should be looking at your descent rate and looking at the MCDU to see, alright, if he keeps this angle, will we cross that step-down fix right on altitude, if not just above that altitude. You don't want to cross that step-down fix below that altitude. If you are, then that's the pilot monitoring's job to say you're going to be low prior to the step-down fix, so you adjust it manually up here as needed. So you would adjust your vertical speed or your flight path angle manually to keep up with your green dot coming down. And the green dot, it's pre-planned. It knows that it has that step-down fix in there. So as long as you're on that green dot, or maybe just above that green dot, you should be fine. And then we'll ensure the autopilot is disconnected no later than 250 feet AGL. So all of that has been done and complied with. I think we are ready for the approach here. So I get this back in arc mode, 10 miles. Alright, excellent. So, with all of that said, Mr. FO, any questions about the briefing? No questions. I think you covered it all. Excellent. Well, I'll take the aircraft back from you. So, my aircraft, your aircraft, and whenever you're ready, let's go ahead and do a descent checklist. Alright, descent checklist. Altimeters, 29902. Auto brake is low. Proof of approach page. It's set. Arrival briefing reviewed. There's no star. Localizer, a runway 9 right approach, and the status. We still have the Gen 1. No changes there. That's checked. Descent checklist is complete. I forget that. Flight freeze is not going to use the clear button. And now the instructor, having listened to all of the rambling that's going on, will ask, are you ready for the approach? Yep. Alrighty, excellent. I'll release the sim. You're now actually flying Fenix 320. You are 5 miles from Andy, maintain 5,000 until established on a localizer. Cleared for the localizer, runway 9 right approach. Alright. Maintain 5,000 until established. We're clear for the localizer, 5 right approach. Fenix 320. So, we're clear for the approach. The localizer is armed. What I'm going to do is I will go ahead and begin slowing down. 210 initially. I don't know why. Okay, it's still holding altitude. I was messing around with the vertical speed, that's why I'm showing minus 200. It should disappear here in about the next 30 seconds. So there we go. The loc is captured. So we'll say a loc capture. And we have 5,000 all the way into Guy. After Guy, we can go down to Easy, which is at 4,000 feet. So I can pre-select 4,000 feet and just hold it in there. We're below VF Fenix minus 10, so flaps 1, speed verified. There we go, flaps 1. We got a status message, no changes, clear status, clear status. So what I'm probably going to do is I'm gonna, right before Guy, I'll slow it up to 170, and then that's when I'm going to begin my dive and drive type of technique to get down to 2,700 feet before Bernie. I only get 5 miles to do it, but that's only 1,300 feet. So get down to 1,300 feet. We'll get the rest of the gear and flaps out and configured, and our before landing checklist done, and then from there we will go ahead and switch over to our flight path vector, and 0.3 away is where we're going to 0.3 away is where we're going to go ahead and start diving down. So we're going down 3 degrees on a 30-degree angle. So now I want to slow down to 170 knots just before getting to Guy. That way I can get flaps 2 out without really having to do much work. It'll help us slow down greatly. So there's VFE next minus 10, and we can go flaps 2, speed verified. So now we get flaps 2 out. We're slow enough where we can get flaps 3 out very easily. There's Guy. I can go open descent to 4,000. And as you can see, the green dot has come in. We got our pilot monitoring over here on the progress page. And you can see we're only 150 something feet low. As you can tell, the green dot is just above us. We're just below the glide slope, but we're ignoring the glide slope for now. We are ignoring the glide slope for now because we're doing a localizer only approach. So we're 5 for 4. And then we're about to cross here. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and set 3,000 in there, let the airplane keep coming on down. In fact, I might use a little bit of spoilers. You see where my level off here is? So I'm going to use a little bit of spoilers to get down just before that point, because I want to start slowing down before I get to that 1 mile ring, because a lot of things are going to happen right at that 1 mile ring. So I'm going to use a little bit of spoilers to come on down. Come on down. Nice and gently. There we go. And then I can go ahead. I always have the option to bring my gear down. So, gear down.
2,500.
I'll manage up my speed. We're below VF Fenix minus 10, so flaps 3. Speed verified. We'll bring the spoilers back up. And we're going to arm the spoilers. And we're VF Fenix minus 10, so flaps full, speed verified. Before landing checklist, altimeters, You got 29902, 3160, 29902 checked, engine mode is norm, landing gear, down 3 green, down 3 green, ECAM memo. We're holding for the ECAM memo. Alright, so now we're all configured up. We're about to reach our little 1 mile ring here that we set for Bernie. So now is a great time to switch over to flight path vector. Alt star, we're waiting for Alt star to disappear. Alrighty. Excellent. So we're level at 3000. We're at our final approach speed. We're fully configured. We're gonna dial in -3, and then right just about now we can go ahead and pull -3 and start going down on a 3-degree angle. Good thing about our flight path vector is you can see we got a wind from the right. As you see, our little airplane is off to the left of our actual little flight director bar here, meaning we have a right crosswind. So we're a little high. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna dial in another 0.2. And now, guess what? We're on the other side of our little 1 mile ring here, so I'm gonna set the missed approach altitude. Our missed approach altitude is 4,000, so we'll set 4,000. That's set. Looking over here, 239 feet high. I'll dial in another 0.2 to get us going back down. Alrighty. We see that this is correcting back in. You see how the airplane takes a little bit of time? So by the time I had pulled it and it had gone down, we're already high on profile. But it's correcting. You shouldn't really need too much input to get it to correct back. You should be pretty darn close, and it's doing a really good job of staying on profile here. So we're correcting back, stable. And we got landing no blue before landing checklist is complete. So this is going to be a spicy, especially with the crosswind. I don't really trust this airplane with the crosswind yet, in this sim at least. So we'll see how it turns out here.
500.
I should be able to see. There we go. Approach lights.
Minimum.
Runway continuing. Bring myself back into the view here. So, whew, spicy. Autopilot's off. We're kind of high on profile. Bring it down.
Think rate.
Yep,
Pull
I
up.
got it.
Pull up.
I am.
40. 30. 20. Retard. 5.
There we go. Deployed. $80. 60. Let the auto brakes bring us to a stop. There we go. And that scenario is done. So as you can see, got a little high on profile there. I don't know, the ceiling should have been high enough where I should have broken out and had the visibility to see that approach lights did come into sight. So we had that. The runway came into sight right just around minimums there, but they'll continue tweaking the Microsoft weather to make it so that these approaches should work out as they should. But as you can see, when you follow the little green dot, you have the vertical deviation set up on the first officer side. Everything goes fairly smoothly. We were a little high when we broke out there. I corrected that by dipping down a little bit there. I got the sink rate warning, but at that point we were visual, and I know I was going to make the touchdown zone. So as you can see, that's how a localizer approach would work. That's how we would do it on the line. That's how we would do it in the sim. Kind of a little busy, busy little scenario there because there's lots of things to brief, lots of little gotchas in there, and lots of little aids to help us with staying on track and on target to get everything done prior to us landing. So that concludes this little video for today, and I will see you in the next video. Until then, bye bye.